Hello, it's Dawn. Welcome to Lighthouse Tapestry. And today we're going to be looking at November 9th through, well, actually the 10th through the 16th. So I wanted to show you that I'm wearing my grand water trine necklace. I have a grand water trine that occurs naturally in my chart. And I thought this was very appropriate to bring it out since it's basically around the same degrees of that 25-degree area of the water in all of the charts right now. So what I was thinking this week is that we do have some very unique energy going on. And a lot of that has to do with Venus, which I'm really excited by because Venus is going to be very, very loud for the foreseeable future. All the way, I would say, through April of next year. And she's talking with all of the other asteroid goddesses. It's like, and when I started looking and digging a little deeper, I like my asteroid goddesses. And they have a lot to say and they're working together. So one of the things that I found was that there is a good message for Venus entering Scorpio, and she was in a square to Pluto. So what does that mean? Dishes are breaking. So I just had to find this and play this for you because this so exactly matches with what is going on. Okay, so that was my little bit of fun for you, but I couldn't resist because that is exactly expressing what I feel Venus is going to be about. Venus is in Scorpio. She just finished a square with Pluto. Now, whenever you have Pluto and Venus aspects, there's a lot about power, there's a lot about things going on. And the same day that she had this square to Pluto, um, we did have um, a move of Uranus back into Taurus 29 degrees. Now, what I find fascinating about that is that um, Venus met Taurus at 29 degrees um, back on July 4th. And then Uranus entered Gemini. But on July 4th, Venus and Uranus were conjunct at 29 degrees of Taurus. So when Venus becomes involved in this grand water trine and hits 29 degrees of Scorpio in a trine with Neptune exactly, she's going to be opposite and in kind of like that full moon node. When they were conjoined, it's like a new moon. And when they are in opposition, it's like a full moon. So what is going to come to culmination with Venus in Scorpio? So Venus is very much about, she could be wicked. I mean, in Scorpio, and she's got a lot of help. She has Uranus in her home sign that she is in an exact opposition with coming up. And I do have that date, and I think I'll do a separate video completely on that because there's so much going on that date in November. It's like the 30th. So this has all been very, very fascinating to me, and I wanted to bring that up at the beginning of this astrology because it's really going to play in. Venus is about getting your freedom. I did do a card reading on my channel, and there is very much this energy of the Tower came out, the Devil card came out. It was quite the card reading. It's just like freedom. It's freedom coming through. And I especially think this is true because when Uranus and Venus conjunct again, it'll be back at that 29 degrees of Taurus all over again. So to me, this is incredibly powerful Venus that's going on right now. And she is only going to bring in more power. It's just like Mercury Venus, Mercury retrograde is going to be dropping truth bombs And Venus is there, like she's like the supplier of all of the, oh, you need intel on that? Here you go. I will gladly hand it over to you because that's the kind of mood she's in. So I will go ahead and share here. Here we go. We'll go to this chart. Share. Oops. Hold on just a second. Stop share. Okay. And go to share. Sometimes it fusses. Sometimes it fusses. Okay, now we share. There we are. Good. Okay. So this is what's happening. I have this set for November 9th. I do want to point out to you that we have this grand water trine happening. Jupiter still direct. Saturn is still retrograde, but will be going direct soon. I wonder if I have that when it's going direct. Jupiter stations retrograde on the 11th. That's coming up. And on November 27th is when Saturn stations direct. So we have a little while. But this week, Jupiter will be going retrograde. So this is at 25. This is at 29. This is that grand water trine. And we've had a parade of things going through Scorpio. We just had Mercury and Mars enter into Sagittarius from Scorpio. So they were part of this grand water trine. And what's going to be happening next is the sun will be coming through here, and also Venus will be coming through here. And that's when that 29-degree opposition is going to be happening with Uranus. Now, remember, Venus went into a square with Pluto on the same day that Uranus entered into Taurus. So, and I think actually Uranus entered Taurus earlier in the day, I believe. I'm just really curious about that. Give me a second. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. First, it was like about an hour and a half apart. Uranus entered Taurus, and then Venus squared Pluto. So I think she had a little muscle behind her with Uranus, with all this energy going on. And I find that super fascinating. Also, I want to point out that Pluto, right now, that's in Aquarius, right now, is talking to Sedna in a trine. Pluto is there to help Sedna. Now, think about this. Sedna is very much about women who have been betrayed, and she's getting her power back. Uranus is going to be coming back after having an opposition with Venus, and then will also be having a conjunction with Venus before it enters Gemini again. So I know this astrology is kind of out there a little bit for everybody in as far as the time goes, but that's going to be happening in April when it comes back in. But it just makes Venus so powerful during this time. It is, to me, it's beyond belief what's been going on. So we do have this happening in the chart, that the water trines are basically, I think, helping us with some of this rougher energy. So it's like, okay, something happens, there's news comes out, we have the grand water trine to work with our emotions and feel what has been going on. Also, as you look, we do have, besides that trine with Pluto and Sedna, we do have the moon is moving through these certain areas of the chart. So we do have the moon that's actually going to be coming through and completing this a couple different times, completing that grand water trine, but that'll be more of a quick energy. So let's move forward a little bit. So this is on the 9th. And we do have Mercury still going forward. And then I want to point out that Mercury conjuncts Mars on the 12th. So let's just take a look at that date. Okay. Mercury's in a conjunction to Mars at 6 degrees. This is a little off for time, but they will actually be in a conjunction on that day. And this is when we're going to start to feel that grand water trine energy again. We have 20-degree sun. We do have it talking again to the 25 degrees and the 25 degrees, right? Venus is actually going to be talking to Circe and the North Node coming up. I want you to notice this because, oh yeah, here we go. There's Circe. So she is at 14. So what's going to be happening? Venus is going to be moving up, and on the day that we have that super powerful Scorpio new moon, we are going to have Venus at 16 degrees square the North Node on that day. And we will have Mercury and the sun and the moon all at 28 degrees of Scorpio in a grand water trine with Neptune and Jupiter. So this is energy that's going to be happening. And we will start to feel that ahead of time, even by the end of this week coming up. So definitely we have all of that energy of this coming forward. We do have, like I said, we do have Jupiter will turn retrograde the day before, but it will stay at that degree. And actually, Mercury, when this retrograde happens, stays at this degree. So if I think we can do this by, we'll change it to an hour. Yeah. Okay. Because it will be at 6 degrees. So Mercury actually hangs out at 6 degrees for quite a while. Almost there. Come on, Mars. Okay. Pretty close. So Mercury stays at that 6 degree mark. It is really leaning into that 6 degrees. So this is going to be very potent when Venus comes back to it. I mean, not Venus, but when Mercury comes back to this degree of 6 degrees Sagittarius. So if you have anything at 6 degrees in your chart, really pay attention to that, because if it's in any of the mutable signs, which are, Gemini in an opposition and Pisces or yeah, Pisces, Virgo, then I think you're going to feel that energy pretty strongly with all that's happening. And Mercury heading back to 20 degrees of Scorpio. And the reason I want to point that out is because that's where she first met up with Mars. And there's a really unusual thing happening with Mars and Mercury. Normally they meet like once every 18 months. But in the next 6 months, they are going to conjunct because of the Mercury retrogrades 5 times in 6 months in 5 different signs. That is pretty unusual. And it'll be interesting to see what degrees those happen at. But Mercury is actually going to go back to the degree where it met Mars for the first time in a conjunction, that 20 degrees of Scorpio. So pay attention to these things coming up and what they mean in your chart. Those 20-degree areas of your chart, Mercury and Venus are going to be throwing truth bombs. That's definitely the feeling that I'm getting as we move to the time when they're getting closer and closer together. So with that, we will take a little bit look further on. So that's a Wednesday. And we do have, as we come up to that, just before we get the sun trining on the 16th, we do get the sun trining Jupiter. I think that there's a lot of energy, and here's that conjunction, but oh, I changed the hour. Hang on, days. No wonder it wasn't moving as fast as I wanted. So again, I think there are events that are going to happen. I think there are unusual things going on. We do have Venus was just conjunct, um, as you can see here, Haumea. And Haumea is actually opposite this, well, not opposite, but kind of an in conjunct to Ceres. Now, I think that there's a lot of stuff going on um, with all of this energy of the goddesses. So Venus conjunct Haumea, making new life decisions about your health, especially for us Gemini people who have that in our sixth house. So what are the things that you can do to help yourself? And being that it's Venus, to maybe do a group thing to help a group of people make better health, having a walking buddy, having some of these things go on. So I do feel that the women are going to be helping each other and sticking together. And I feel that in a lot of different areas of life, this is going to be happening. So that is happening very soon, earlier in the week. And we will go back. And on the 17th, so that'll be the Tuesday, but we will feel that energy ahead of time, is that we have Saturn and the sun in a trine, and we will have Mercury in a sextile to Pluto. So Pluto is going to be feeding Mercury energy. I feel like there's going to be stories coming out. So this will probably be happening before that sextile perfects. It's like, oh, like I said, you want a story? I think that there's going to be people feeding stories out there to see some underbelly energy. So this is Venus. This is Mercury. So she's coming close to that North Node energy. Mercury is basically in this sextile energy. It'll be perfecting as it goes retrograde. Yeah, I really think that there are a lot of things that are going to be coming out, because Mercury will then enter back into Scorpio, a place of digging out secrets. There's going to be a lot of information coming out that weekend. So next weekend, um, um, be prepared for some very unusual information to be coming out. Now, for people's personal charts, I want you to be aware of those 25 degrees and energy either way, down to 20 degrees up to that 29 degrees. The water signs will have that in trines. You will have some energy of sextiles, which would be the earth signs. So that would be really good energy to think about as far as being able to get help from someone. And it's very interesting that we have all of this energy coming up as all of these big changes are being made, and we're having Venus really, really, really strong right now. So that's why I'm saying she's in Scorpio. And she's talking to Mercury, who's in retrograde, who will be digging up secrets, and Pluto sextile, and she had a square with Pluto earlier, and she's got her bodyguard Uranus in her sign that she's going to be illuminating things with. Yes. So look at those areas of your chart specifically, and pay attention when we come up to that really amazing new moon that's going to be in Scorpio at 28 degrees. So sorry, I was a little bit kind of windy with the information this week, but it bears looking at in your chart, what 6 degrees are in your chart, and I've already discussed that, and that 25 degrees in your chart, and see what is around those degrees and how it's talking to each other based on what I've already shown you. So I hope to see you very soon. And be prepared for some surprising energy to come out. I will stop the share here. I will then also stop the recording, and I will see you soon. Bye.